Nurture and support. Nurture and support. This is a podcast theme song. And it's really short.
Nurture and support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nurture and Support, a recommendation podcast. This is show number 108. I'm Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL on Twitter, and with me, as always, advancing the Amazon Prime directive is Mel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mel at Karmic9, and if I sound funny, I have a new mic. So let me know if it sounds better or worse. And for your listening pleasure, we have a guest tonight. Alicia has returned, the wonderful singer of our theme song.
Hello.
Thank you for being back.
Awesome to have you back.
Happy to be back. And I'm at Alchemy Girl, still.
Still. Haven't changed. I think we have all kept the same Twitter account for 108 shows. Very impressive. All righty. So I think some of us have recommendations none of us have heard of before. Some of us have recommendations that some of us have heard before. So we'll go and get started with mine. And if I recall correctly, when we were last time Alicia had joined us, or the time you joined us where you were talking about vinyl, I believe I mentioned I had a certain album on vinyl, and it solicited a ooh from you. So I think you'll be in favor of this recommendation. This recommendation goes all the way back to 1980. It's an album released in 1980, but it has withstood the test of time. It's a David Bowie album called Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. And so that's the recommendation for this week is David Bowie's. The official full title is what I gave you there, Scary Monsters, and then either ... or parenthetical and Super Creeps. But a lot of times you'll see it just listed as Scary Monsters. And what a wonderful album it is. This actually is Bowie's first album after what was called the Berlin Trilogy that he did for Brian Eno, friend of the show per recommendation, many times recommended. But he did not carry on the, was not through here. But Robert Fripp, great guitarist, joined Bowie on this album. And Pete Townsend from The Who actually plays guitar on one of the tracks as well. The whole album is fun. Bowie always does kind of many different music styles. But this one, the first side of this album, this is, back in the days, kids, when albums had sides versus all the songs playing. The first 5 songs on the album go from It's No Game to Up the Hill Backwards to Scary Monsters and Super Creeps to Ashes to Fashion. So it's like boom, boom, just like great song. It's just like 5 outstanding songs in a row. The second side has Teenage Wildlife. Finishes off with its return to It's No Game, and Kingdom Come is also on the second side. So some really strong stuff. But Ashes to Ashes has always been one of my favorite ones because it's got the great line, Ashes to Ashes, Funk to Funky. We know Major Tom's a junkie. And so that's always a little toe tapper and a nice callback to Major Tom and Ground Control to Major Tom. Kind of an update for us from there. Several different singing styles it always does through here, and what's really cool, if you get a chance, I think they put like all the old Saturday Night Lives out there now on Netflix. You can kind of go through past seasons and all that. Go around the 80s and find Bowie came on during this time and did a couple songs on here, and he had Klaus Vormann join him for one of them, and it's one of the strangest 5 minutes of music you'll ever see. So I'd highly recommend catching Bowie doing that because he's wearing kind of the impressionistic clown outfit to a certain degree. It was a very kind of strange thing, but it's really great music. Couple of good guitarists on it as well. Bill Ballard from the E Street Band, the keyboardist, also appears on it. And like I said, that first side where you just get a series of songs, and I had forgotten that Fashion was actually in this. I remember Up the Hill Backwards, which I love that song, and Ashes to Ashes. But Fashion was actually from this album as well, which was a fairly popular Bowie song. So I'm going Scary Monsters and Super Creeps by David Bowie for this week. And I'd recommend any medium you like, but it's pretty awesome on vinyl.
Yeah. I actually got a David Bowie album as well for Christmas. So yeah, I did. It's a collection. It's called Nothing Has Changed. It's the very best of David Bowie.
Cool.
It's super awesome. I actually did some yoga. It was my yoga soundtrack, which I enjoyed, and I don't know, a lot like the album that you're recommending, Kelly. It's just one beautiful, wonderful song after another. Right? It's a delight. I love it.
Yeah, I'm not doing any yoga to scary monsters.
Maybe you should.
I guess I will consider that.
That would be a transcendental experience.
That's right. The up the hill backwards yoga
it
position.
works well.
So I'm gonna have to listen to those. I bet they're on Spotify, which would be my preferred method.
Yes.
Seeing as how I don't own a record player.
That would limit the impact of vinyl for you, I believe.
It would. I could put it on the wall, but that would be about it. So yeah. I'm not as well versed in the music world as y'all are, so I'll have to go experience that. I know of course the popular songs, but some of those I've probably heard, but I don't recognize the titles. So.
Well, my experience, and I still recall it to this day, was putting the album on, starting the first track, and going, "Wow, that was a good first song," and then, "Wow, I really like that second song." And wow, that's 3 songs in a row. Then 4. It's like, I can't believe this. And it just kept getting stronger and stronger all the way through. So, find her on Spotify. I assume it will maintain the album order for you, Mel. And so those first 5. And again, I'm not trying to cut short the second side of the album at all, but that first side is just this cascade of awesomeness for me.
Oh.
So with that, we will turn it over to our guest, Alicia, and have her share her recommendation.
Okay. My recommendation is for a British television show. The genre is dark comedy, and it is called A Young Doctor's Notebook and Other Stories. This was a television show, I think 2012, 2013, so not recent, starring...
I gave a 1980s recommendation.
I was gonna say that's newfangled.
Okay, I'm going way back to 2012. Okay.
Wow.
And we stumbled upon this over the holiday break when it was, what should we watch on Netflix? What's out there? What looks good? And this TV show is starring Daniel Radcliffe as young doctor and John Hamm as the older doctor. So they actually play the same character, but John Hamm's character is the older doctor, and he's looking through this notebook of stories, kind of reliving his experiences as a young doctor in Russia in early 1900s. So, from the description, I have to admit, it's not something I would necessarily run to see. It's very, I don't know, it's very strange, a little odd. I will say with the acting, I mean, Daniel Radcliffe and John Hamm are excellent. I would probably watch them have lunch, together for 10 episodes. So I think this is amazing. They actually interact with each other. So you have the older version of himself that can interact with his younger version, going back actually to the scene. They smart off to one another. He gives him advice. The younger doctor ignores his own advice. It's like from what he sees, and then the perspective of not quite being there yet. So I don't want to give too much of it away. I think it's a really excellent watch. Each episode is about 20 minutes. So they're kind of those easy potato chip, watching. It's just one after another. You could finish a whole season in an evening, really. And, my caveat, I guess, to this is it can get a little gruesome. And I think that's kind of where the dark comedy part comes in. He is a doctor in times when they have primitive facilities. Yes, exactly. So there are things that aren't going to be handled the way they would be today, as cleanly or making the same things that could be done today. This makes it both kind of funny and also just, it's just very fascinating to me. So I love it. It is based on a series of stories. Also, and I don't know. It just feels like quite a find that I wanted to share. I think you'd both enjoy it.
So does
Yes.
John Hamm like channel Mad Men, and he's like always giving advice like you need to smoke more and drink more and womanize.
Yeah. You know, he doesn't, but he is still, I don't know, he's still like, it's hard to describe the comedy in this because there are serious themes, that are occurring. So there's that tone of seriousness that's there, but just the way that it's treated is really interesting to me, and John Hamm is a big part of that. He definitely brings that comedy, and then you have this high energy, of the young doctor and Daniel Radcliffe, who's just excited to be practicing, in this era of World War I. There's all these crazy things happening that he has to take care of. There's very few people in this hospital where he's working, so you probably have maybe 3 other main actors that the story focuses on. Each are just very key to the story. All are very funny, very good.
Does the John Hamm? So how do the timelines intersect? Does John Hamm make a choice to enter? Does Radcliffe call him, or is it out of either of their control and it just happens?
Yeah, it's more of the latter, in that it just happens. The scene could open with John Hamm reading, or he's in a desk. You're not even sure yet, where he is right now necessarily. That's how I take it. I take it as maybe that's coming up. I'm not really sure, but he will just appear in a scene with Daniel Radcliffe, usually at the most chaotic of times, when he really doesn't want to sit and talk necessarily, or he's in the middle of an operation, of some sort, and he's confronted, with himself, talking to him. So a lot of that happens, which makes it really interesting. And then sometimes it's just really reflective moments too, where he'll show up and say, well, are you happy? Are you happy about this? And talks to him about it. And so I thought, I love that concept. Really cool.
Yeah, that sounds really nice, and I like the 20-minute episodes.
Right.
That's cool. I'd never even heard of that. I can't believe that hasn't come up on my recommendations.
Yeah, and it's funny because it has this long title, A Young Doctor's Notebook and Other Stories, that whenever I wanted to keep going back to it, I kept saying, let's watch that Daniel Radcliffe John Hamm, show, which is about as long as saying the original title.
Yeah.
So I thought I should probably learn what it is. Very just a unique series. I know there's 2 seasons. I don't know if there's anything beyond that.
Yeah.
Though, but I'm almost to the second one now.
Yeah. That sounds good. I'm definitely gonna check that out. I love British dark comedies, so that sounds.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'd be interested to know what you think.
Yeah.
For sure.
Cool. Are you gonna check it out, Kelly? Take a break from your documentaries.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I was a big Mad Men fan, and I really enjoyed John Hamm. I think he's a guy that can kind of deliver lots of different things, pathos and humor and those kinds. He's fun. I've never been a huge Daniel Radcliffe fan because I'm just not over the moon on the Harry Potter stuff. I mean, I think they're good. I know. It's just I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying they're bad, but I don't know.
This is the last episode of this show, y'all. I just have to let y'all know.
I think they're both so awesome and great. I'm going to log off right now to go watch them. Yes, I will be watching them.
Have you seen Daniel Radcliffe in anything else besides Harry Potter?
I have not. I just recall vaguely hearing one time he was in a play naked. And so I've kind of created a buffer from Daniel Radcliffe stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him naked. So
I can't say I was ever a big fan necessarily of him. I like the Harry Potter movies, but what made me become a bigger fan of him was listening to interviews with him. He's been on the Nerdist podcast several times with Chris Hardwick, and I want to say maybe Mark Maron, who might have talked to him. Just some of the podcasts that I've listened to in the past. Very bright, very funny. He was in the Actor Studio, that show way back when, and I don't even know if that's still on. But anyway, I watched him on that, and just something about him just has a really interesting presence, and I like him. I saw a crazy movie that he was in called Horns. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend it, but it is different. It is a horror movie, I think, but it's very campy and silly and kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um,
It's based on a book by Joe Hill, who is
is it?
Stephen
Okay.
King's son.
Is it really?
Yes.
See, and now I like it better now, actually,
Yeah.
that you said
There you
that.
go.
So, okay.
Yeah.
'Cause it was like, it was a really, really strange story, but there was something about it that I liked, and I just couldn't quite, put my finger on it.
Yeah,
That might
I
be.
haven't seen the movie yet. I keep meaning to, but I just haven't gotten to that part of the queue yet.
Oh,
So
yeah. Well, you could have a whole Daniel Radcliffe day, like celebration day of some sort of
absolutely.
marathon.
I'd have to start with the Harry Potter ones though, and go back to when he was this tiny little kid, and then as he
Oh,
gets older and darker, and then move to the dark comedy, and then move to horns. I
oh
did see that
no.
other one. I did see that other one in the scary house, the ghost one. I saw that one. I can't even remember the name of it.
Mm-mm. I don't know if I
So,
saw that. I don't really watch too many scary movies, but I love quirky, quirky
yeah,
dark comedy type movies and shows.
cool.
Well, you guys just tell me which ones he's not naked in, and I'll watch those.
I'm
That's
pretty
just,
well. He does take a bath in the Harry Potter
hey,
movies.
dude's got issues.
Kind of part of the book though. Oh, so my recommendation this week is free. That's always novel. So I've actually recommended this author before. His name is Mark Lawrence, and I recommended his Prince of Thorns series before, the Broken Empire series trilogy. And if you still haven't read that, it's awesome, totally awesome, grimdark. I love it. So anyway, he's doing some different stuff, but there is a website out there called Wattpad, which is kind of a social community for writers and people who want to go read free books. So you can go up there and put stuff that you've written up for critique for people to read, and there's places for them to give you notes on what they liked about that chapter or didn't like. So there's actually quite a few well-known authors that have accounts on there and occasionally post stuff. I'm not real familiar. I haven't done a lot of exploring around Wattpad, but Mark Lawrence and he's got the whole book up there now called Gunlaw, and this is a different than the Broken Empire series. It's really hard to describe. Technically, it's classified under fantasy, but you might have guessed by the name Gunlaw, it kind of features gunslingers in the Old West, but there's magic, and there's these people called dogmen who are just what they sound like. They're kind of humanoid dog people. There are some cat people who can also change shape. They're shapeshifters, so they can actually take on the appearance of other people.
But
There are
mostly they
some
sit around completely disinterested, right?
they're very aggressive.
Oh
They're
my.
very solitary. They don't like being around people, but there's a certain part of their life where they're more sociable and they can actually tolerate humanity some without killing them all. And that's about the only time you'll ever see them. Otherwise, if you see one, they're probably going to kill you, which is cool because, cats going to kill you in your sleep. But there's also some not quite zombies. They're called corpsers, and they are dead. They're dead humans, but they don't go around trying to chomp brains and eat people's hearts. They're actually fully aware, cognizant, normal sort of people, except they're dead and their bodies are falling apart, and so they actually use other people as spare parts. So they're pretty sturdy and they're hard to kill, and everyone hates them because they will come cut off pieces of you and install them on themselves because they're rotting. This is a very painful process, apparently, as well. So everybody hates the corpsers. They are generally considered bad people, though in the course of this story you get to see a couple different sides of them, but they're generally bad people. And then you've got the hex witches who use blood magic to do different sorts of things. So it's a really weird story, but it's kind of set in an Old West setting on not this world, on another world. So they start mixing in all sorts of magic. There's a trinity of gods stumbling around on this world that may or may not have your best interest, at heart. And then, of course, the ultimate bad guys are these people-sized bugs that are really bad, and they would kill everybody if they could. So that's what the title of the book is about, is Gunlaw. This world is ruled by what's called the Gunlaw. And what that does is protect communities to keep the bugs out. And the only people who can enforce the gun law are gunslingers. So every town has its own gunslinger. This is, like the Old West version of a sheriff, except they also have sheriffs. The gunslinger's only job is to uphold the gun law. And the story in this book, it's hard to talk about it and really tell you what I loved about it so much without giving the plot away. It gets very convoluted, but one of Mark Lawrence's real strengths, I think, is the way that he tells stories by skipping through time. And it's kind of like the show that Alicia's talking about, where you have older characters talking to younger characters. In his books, a lot of times you're jumping from the present to then jumping to tell part of the story in the distant past. And over the course of a large book, you get the whole image. So it takes some time, and you kind of have to trust the author to know where they're going with it, because you will only very slowly get little pieces here and there that you can put the puzzle together. I enjoy trying to pick out those little pieces and see if I can figure out where the story is going before he actually gets around to telling you. That's one of the things I really enjoy about his books. A lot of people in the reviews have compared this to the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, if you like that, because it does have the Old West and the magic mix in there. But essentially, you've got this hex witch who is on a quest, and she enlists this gunslinger to help her. But she's determined to break the gun law because she's decided that the gun law is a trap, that they've kind of been convinced to uphold this gun law that's really a cage, and the gods are hiding the truth from them. So you kind of have to go through the whole book wondering if she succeeds, what's going to happen, because what they've told everyone is if the gun law breaks, the bugs are going to come in, and the bugs are going to take out everybody, because as we all know, that's what bugs do, because we've all seen Starship Troopers. So it's really interesting. I loved it. It is up free on Wattpad, so it's not really polished and edited yet. He was putting it up chapter by chapter on Wattpad to see what people thought about the story. So I really would like more people to go read it and vote for it on Wattpad and convince him to continue the story, because I want to know what happens in book 2. So I would really recommend, if you liked Dark Tower or you like magic mixed with your gunslingers, I think you would enjoy this story. It's really pretty fun, and it's really interesting to try to figure out where the story's going and what's happening, and where all of these trains that run across the desert go, and all of that cool stuff. So it's Gunlaw by Mark Lawrence. I'll put a link up on the blog post to Wattpad directly to it. And if you haven't checked out Wattpad, go ahead. There's lots of free stuff up there. And if you find something cool, let me know about it, because I really haven't explored Wattpad fully, because it's huge. It's been around for years, and there's a ton of stories up there.
So does Wattpad kind of plug into an e-reader format, or how do you actually consume?
You can either read it directly in a web browser. It's a website,
okay,
just like any other social media, but they do have an app. I know they have an app for iOS. I'm sure they have one for Android, and that does work a little bit more like an e-reader.
Cool.
So it's actually a really easy read, way to read books, and I need to look at it more. But I've had an account there for years. I just never really explored everything, because I have so many books to read that I really didn't need to go look for it anymore. But he started posting up on Twitter that he had this over there, and I waited until it was actually done, and then went at it and read it in like a day. So it's really cool. It's an interesting story that I thought was pretty unique, and I haven't really read anything quite like it. It's hard to classify, because it hits on so many different genres. It's not technically fantasy. It's not really a Western. You can't really call it a sci-fi. It's just its own thing, and it's really cool. So, and it's got bugs as bad guys.
And there is a Android app for Wattpad as well. So
Good. I knew there would be. I don't know if there'll be one for Windows Phone or not.
yeah, no. I'm not going to pick on Windows Phone owners. I actually saw one in the wild.
Oh, really?
It's like, wow.
I've never seen one.
It was scary. It's very confusing to me. Great. So I believe this week we might be a little light on social media recommendations. I'm going to actually, to keep the spirit of social media alive on the show, offer up a hashtag that you might want to spend a little bit of time offering suggestions for, that I stumbled across today and had a lot of fun with. And that would be bad Star Wars 8 names. So just kind of basically offering up some bad names. And I'm sure everybody can come up with creative ones, so I'll give you, just so you don't duplicate, let me just kind of share. For example, Snakes on a Star Destroyer, I think would be a bad Star Wars 8 name. And then Dude, Where's My Lightsaber? Which I thought would be another.
Are those yours, Kelly?
Those are mine.
I saw that hashtag earlier today, but y'all know I'm not very clever. So
There's a lot of bad ones out there. So.
I retweeted a few.
That's fun. That's fun. I like those.
Yeah. Star Wars will be consuming our lives for the next several years.
Mm-hmm.
So get used to it, folks.
All right.
Yeah, I'm so hopeful we don't get a letdown with the next one. But I'm sure everything will be fine. I'm sure this is all under control. But
it won't be for lack of money.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
They'll have the budget, that's for sure. All right, well, we started the show off talking about scary monsters and super creeps, so it seems like a great time to turn it over to Matt and have him tell you all the different ways that you can connect with Nurture and Support via iTunes, web browsers, all sorts of different ways, emails that Mel and I get to when we can, Twitter, all that fun thing. So Matt will give you all the particulars on that, and I'd like to say thanks, Alicia, for joining us again.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks for listening, everybody.
You can contact us on our website, nurtureandsupport.net, or email us at nurtandsupp@gmail.com. That's NURTANDSUPP@gmail.com, or tweet us at nurtandsupp on Twitter. You can also catch Nurture and Support on YouTube. Just search Nurture and Support or Kelly Toole.
Nurturing and supporting Tornado.